want to thank you guys for joining us on our weekly trainings. Last week we had our live men's empowerment. Farsad was there. I think it was really awesome. It was powerful. It was something very different. Next time, I'm really going to encourage the team to attend one of these events. I think the point of entry was like 10 or 20 bucks. It was pretty cheap, and but it was jam-packed with information and a lot of great takeaways. There's going to be one coming up next month, and I'll get you guys the dates and all that for the next training so you guys can plan for it. It's a live event if you can make it, and it's going to be in the city of Downey. And this one's going to be centered around investments. Excuse me. So looking forward to that one. We are a sponsor, so it'll be a great place for you to network and hopefully meet some people that may refer business to you, and also get you out, just get you out there and in front of people and exercising that muscle of being around people. Anyhow, today's training is a great one. The topic is SMART goals, and Serafin is going to lead this training for us. It's a presentation he's put together. But before we get into that, I want to share personally myself how.
Hello.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay, I don't know what that was on the back. But I just want to share with you guys how important goals have been for my success, for my personal success, so that I can achieve the things that I wanted to achieve. I feel without goals, we're just a ship sailing in the wind, right? With no direction. We're kind of allowing the wind and whatever's unfolding just take us wherever we want. And once we establish goals, for me personally, it allows me to focus on one thing that I want to get done. And when I got into the university, we all experience that, right? And we're in high school, and that one's kind of a forced goal, to graduate, get your high school diploma. The college is optional for those that chose to go to college. You make that your focal point, or anything, getting your real estate license or anything. It's a goal, right? To achieve that. And some of the goals that we establish seem to be long-term, and they seem to be far away. And for me personally, it's easy to get away from it because it's like, it's so far away. I can take this day off. I can not worry about it this day. And those days quickly start adding up, and you start just kicking your future goals into the future more, right? And not bring them closer to accomplishing the things that you want. One of the things that worked for me was, breaking down my goals into smaller goals, right? You have your big goal, then you have your smaller goals, and then you break down those goals to goals that are manageable, maybe daily goals or weekly goals that you can feel and you can touch and you can accomplish, and have that little win and say, I did it, right? I did today's goal. I'll work on tomorrow's goal. And all for whatever your big picture is, where you see yourself, where you visualize yourself in 3 years, 5 years, 6 years, 10 years, wherever it is that you want to be, right? And this could be, health-wise, financial, career, any type of goals that you want to set, right? And obviously, we're in the mortgage business right now, so we're trying to help you guys see the importance of setting goals and keeping them in mind. And I think with Serafin, I'm gonna stick around in the presentation because he has a whole different approach. He kind of teased me with it, so I want to see what what I can learn from here, and maybe take a couple of takeaways and maybe enhance the way I do my goals and make it a lot easier for myself. So but again, it's very important. I know a lot of us already on this call, probably already know about goals and have our goals, and let's take a look and see what Serafin's going to share with us about approaching our goals, right? Because this is what's going to help us achieve the things that we're looking to achieve. So without further ado, Serafin, go ahead and take the helm.
All right, awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction, Pablo. And yeah, I think I'm going to be preaching to the choir when it comes to goal setting, right? I think we all are very familiar with it. We're like, no, at least intuitively, right, that we need to be setting goals. And that's great. I do think that we can start from there where everyone's at and really build on it, because I find that goal setting is part of a larger strategy and not, productive in of itself. If you only stop at the goal or setting the goal, and don't go any further, you're kind of just like, all talk, no action, right? So we're starting from the fundamental component. I'm going to make this very pithy for everyone. So that way we can just get to the heart of what needs to be talked about today about SMART goals. And then I'm going to give you guys something to work on yourself. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And I'm really excited about today. It's building off of what we talked about last time when I was delivering training. Last time it was just about, how to learn, right? Basically teaching yourself how to learn. This one is not part of that series. I kind of envisioning a series of different sort of trainings that I'm going to deliver to you guys just on creating the right, environment and to achieve your goals, the right systems to achieve your goals and to take you to the next level. So this is a part of that series of which, goal setting, or goal setting, I should say, is an instrumental part. You really can't get away from it, right? So let's take a deeper dive into what that means for us, right? And see if I can show you guys anything you don't already know. So to start, right, just gonna do a little bit of intro, understanding the SMART goals, right? If you guys already know what that is, awesome. I'm happy for you. We're gonna just go over a breakdown of what SMART goals are. And then I'm going to assign you guys some homework, right? So I've been thinking about this. And one of the things I want to make sure is I keep you guys engaged. I love putting training sessions like this together because, well, one, I do this day in, day out, but also I want to be someone that can help hold you accountable, right? So my offering to you all on this call is stay engaged and follow throughout. So that way, when we get to the homework that I'm going to give you, you are able to line up what was just what I just trained with you guys to have something that's actionable as well. We don't want to be all talk. We want to actually act on what's being trained today, right? And then, of course, I'll take some, questions, comments, all that kind of good stuff. But without further ado, we're going to go into some, introduction to goal setting. Again, feel like I am going to be preaching to the choir for this. But goal setting is like plotting the course on your journey towards success. I was actually talking to Pablo about this, right? And I think a lot of people don't really realize that that achieving your goals, right, is not a linear thing. You're not going to be moving necessarily in a straight fashion, right? There's a lot of twists and turns and winding roads. Sometimes it feels like you take a step back, right? So it's really important that you see this as a part of a journey and not something that's going to happen in as easy as 1, 2, 3. So, contextualizing where goal setting is, it's very much like a direction that you chart for yourself. Like to borrow from Pablo's, analogy earlier, you don't want to be a ship without a sail, right? You want to make sure you have a direction, right? And you're doing your best to blow wind into that sail. So think of yourself as the navigator of your journey, and you got to say what's worth your time, effort, and attention, because Lord knows it's only finite, right? You don't have time to do everything in the world. We got to be very intentional with how we use our time. Providing that direction and purpose, that's a you thing, right? I'm going to be here to make sure that I facilitate you, guide you throughout the process, but ultimately you have to be clear on what you're going towards. Making sure you clarify what you want to achieve and how to get there is a part of that goal setting too. A lot of people start with a vague idea of what they want to achieve. Oh, I want to get more business, or I want to meet more realtors. That's a good start. I don't want to necessarily say it's a bad goal, but if you stop at that, then you're not going to be as likely to hit your goal, right? And we really prioritize good outcomes here. We want to make sure that any time spent, any effort that we put into something has some sort of measurable outcome, right? And of course, it's very easy with our day and age, right, to be distracted, right? Sometimes we lose focus. Having our goals mapped out for us and knowing that we're executing according to a plan keeps us focused and, importantly, keeps us accountable. So I built this diagram for you. I'm not sure if you can see it so well, but I'll walk you through it, right? This is kind of a quick jot of what a workflow for goal setting, looks like, and what you do when you actually are, in this journey of achieving your goals, right? Today, we're going to be focusing on those first 2 steps, right? So we have starting, we already started, right? We're going to define our goals today, and we're going to identify necessary steps to achieve those goals, right? Afterwards, just creating an action plan, which that could be a future session. executing the plan, and then you can see, right, there's some things that happen here, right? If we check our progress regularly, which we always make sure we create some measurability inside of our goals, we can see if we're on track or off track. On track, we just continue our execution until finally we achieve the goal. And if we're off track, just gotta adjust that plan, execute it again, and then, of course, you go through this whole process of seeing whether or not you've achieved the goal or not. So it's very simple, guys. Like, I'm not going to overcomplicate this for you. What matters, though, is you actually executing. And that's why I prefer simplicity as opposed to like elaborate sort of, you know, frameworks. There's no secret sauce here. The secret sauce is you getting clear on what you want and be real, right? Because the work that really takes you to the next level is the work that no one sees. You know, it's very easy for like Instagram influencers and financial gurus and all the people out there to be like, do this method and you will one day be like me. But ultimately, there is no substitute for hard work. And the more work you put in, the more likely it is that you're able to get to where you want to get to. But you have to decide where you want to get to. So my hope is by the end of this training where I'm able to provide you some framework to be able to get really clear on what you really want. You don't have to get clear on it for me. You know, I'm here to help you. You gotta get clear on it for yourself and say, what do I want? If you are just an individual LO, think about those things. What do I want from an individual standpoint? Doris and Sergio, I'm gonna ask you to mute yourselves while I'm talking, just so I don't get any feedback. If you manage a team and you are, you know, excited to try and get them to the next level, think about that and see what things start to reach out to you or like speak to you while I go through this training. Okay, so I think we're at a good stopping point. Just want to open it up for anyone if I have any questions. Okay, I think I don't. Like, I'll say, just keep yourself on mute. I think, Doris, I see that you're unmuted and it's getting me feedback. So if you wouldn't mind just muting yourself. Thank you. Yeah, guys, and sorry to call you out, but I got an agenda here. So I want to make sure we're using everyone's times correctly. All right, so specific, right? Well, first of all, SMART, right? I mean, it's not just like a witty acronym, right? It actually means something, right? I'm going to walk you through each of those steps of constructing a goal, which there are 5, okay? So the first one is specific, right? Make your goal clear, right? So being specific keeps you focused, right? And that's what we really want to get to, especially when you're in the thick of it and you're asking yourself, did I really do the thing? And did I accomplish it? You want to have something you can reference and be like, oh yeah, that's why I'm doing all this, right? So you want to answer these questions when you're starting to construct these goals. I often find that you're not really looking for the right answer so much. You're looking for the right questions to prompt you to that next stage. So what do I want to accomplish? Why is this goal important to me? Who is involved? Is it just me? Are there other people that can be involved? Where is it located? Is it a place that I'm trying to get to? Which resources or limits are involved, right? It's a good starting point to start thinking about these things, right? Not just from the frame of like, okay, I want to be a top producer and close 60 loans this year. I think that's great, but really conceptualize it from this standpoint of what do I want to accomplish? Why is it important to me? Like, make sure you're doing that work too, because it's going to make it that much more likely for you to succeed. Now, I have an example for you. I remember when I first created this training, I was getting ready to run a marathon, of which I actually never ran a marathon in my life. And I was like, okay, let me use this as an example, right? So that's my example, right? I just starting from something very basic. This is not the SMART goal yet, but something very basic. Just wanting to build the strength and endurance necessary to run a marathon. And spoiler alert, I did run that marathon and it hurt, but it was a lot of fun. And it just goes to show you, you're capable of things that you yourself don't even know of yet, but you have to be willing to make that happen for yourself, right? So here, just starting from something basic, right? Maybe you have something specific to yourself. You know, I'm going to share this deck with you, by the way, everyone. So you don't have to just focus on like writing notes on like these things. I mean, take notes all you want, please, but I will be sharing this with you as well. So don't lose sight of what I'm saying for your note taking. Measurable. So we have a phrase here, and I'm sure I've said it many times. I'm going to say it again. That which is not measured is not improved. If you're not measuring where you've been, you have no idea where you are going. A lot of people try to shortcut this and just think if I put in like 120%, then I will get to where I'm going to get to. But then you have no way to like really see where you've come. And maybe you do get there, right? But you won't know really if you've accomplished it. And what often happens without intentionally doing this is that the goalposts move every time, right? You want to really define where you're going to and then track it, right? That is a good way of making sure you stay on target. And to be honest, I see a lot of people skip it because they don't want to know. They don't want to know if they didn't hit their goal. They don't want to know if they're not trying hard enough. They don't want to be held accountable. But if you don't measure the goal, if you don't have someone, if you can't be that person and you don't have someone on your team or around you who can be that person for you and help you do this, you will always be rudderless, moving around without a direction and just wondering why are my efforts being unmet with results I want. Track your progress. That can look like weekly check-ins. It can look like you know, even going to a friend and saying, hey, this is where I started and where I'm at. It can be a journal. However it may look like, you gotta track your progress, right? Don't ignore this step. It's so important. It keeps you motivated, right? You know, seeing where you come from and where you're going and where you currently are at keeps you motivated. Sometimes it also is a reality check and you're like, oh, wow, I'm not as far as I'd like to be. That's okay. You know, we work on that stuff together, right? And I can tell you, just like in my position, focusing on, you know, all the operations that come along with Equity Smart, it's easy to get sidetracked. It's easy to forget why you're doing the things you're doing. Once you lose sight of what's happening, it's hard to get it back. So you really want to try your best to make sure you're putting those controls in place. And you can do it by addressing these questions, right? It's very simple. How much of a thing or how many of it am I trying to do? How will I know when it's accomplished? You gotta really pin it somewhere, right? For example, like if I'm trying to, well, in this example, run a marathon, it's very simple, right? I will run one marathon. And how do I know? Well, I think I'll know if I've run one marathon. My legs will tell me and the time will be somewhere and I'll be able to measure that. Like there's something there that I can point back to and say, like, see, I've done it. There's also those little things that happen between, right? All the little runs that happen in the middle, you know, 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, right? Those are all nice measurables that we can introduce into our goals. So just make sure that you're keeping sight of that. Doris, you're unmuted. Is there anything you want to add here? Okay, moving on. Achievable. I like this one. I like this one because it forces you to be a little realistic and start from what you think is possible. You want to build those wins, right? You don't want to start off so large that you can't see fruits of your labor culminating in success, right? Be realistic with what you can achieve. Start somewhere. Get an easy win. Notch it in today if you can. Don't make it so that you have to wait 6 months to see if whether or not what you've done actually has worked, right? So make it within reach, right? Like maybe you want to, let's give us back our loan officer scenario, right? You want to be a top producer one day, you want to close 60 loans, great. But what's a way you can make it within reach? How can you become the person that will eventually become a top producer today, next week, within a month? Think of it that way and start to create a path where you're able to see and believe yourself, because you actually got to convince yourself you are that person. People don't realize that true behavioral change, which is kind of what goal setting is about, is actually identity shifting. You are not just going to be someone who closes 60 loans. You are trying to become a top producer, right? You got to believe that you are that person, that you have what it takes to be that person. And you got to do that by proving to yourself through your wins that it's within reach, that it's possible. You know, Pablo didn't start off becoming like the CEO of Equity S.M.A.R.T, like off the bat. It took years for us to get to this point. And through that notching of wins and failures that we've gotten to this point. Remember that and do it for yourself. How can you make your goals achievable so that way you can really stack them up and show yourself that you can be that person? They should stretch your abilities, right? You don't want to make it so easy that you're not leaving your comfort zone. Remember what we say, you know, get comfortable with the uncomfortable. You want to be the person that's pushing yourself a little bit further. You'll always be your best coach. I could, you know, I'll be a good coach too. You know, Pablo will be as well. Steve, all of our staff will help you every way we can. But ultimately, you know what's within reach, and you got to pay attention to that little voice inside you. Now, an achievable goal, what does that look like? Ask yourself these questions. How can I accomplish it? How realistic is the goal based on other constraints, maybe financial factors or other sort of environmental factors that might be something to consider? An example, I like this one, right? Is it realistic for me to run a marathon if I haven't run a mile in 2 years? What do you guys think? You just like shake your heads, right? Yeah, you know, if you haven't done anything even close to what it is you're trying to achieve, that's a sure signal that maybe you should pare your goal back. Right? A lot of people, they just get excited. I get it. They're like, I want to do this and that. But remember, the results come with making something that's within reach. If you set a goal and then you don't do anything outside of setting the goal to make it happen, it's just an idea. And ideas with no actions are just going to sit on the shelf, right? So we want to be realistic, right? And I was, by the way, I mean, I started off with like just running a few miles here and there, and I stacked on top of that, right? There's stuff that we can do today even to be able to get to that top level LO in the industry sort of identity that we're after, right? And that comes with paring it back, making it realistic. One thing I like to ask myself is like, do I have the time or resources that I need to actually complete the goal, right? I mean, here you have to like think, okay, well, like I'm going to do this sort of work. What does that really mean for me? And something just to add here, a little caveat, saying yes to something, if it's a true decision, saying yes to something means saying no to many other things, right? The root word of decision is decere, it's Latin, and it means to cut, right? So to make a true decision, you're cutting off all other possibilities. There are no other possibilities. This is the reality I've chosen. Recognize that. True decisions are about cutting away things that are not within, you're not focusing on. They're not part of, you're not even going to look at them anymore. You said no to those things because you said yes to this. So if you're going to say yes, you know, be real, just really make sure you're sinking your teeth into the goal. That way, you know that, hey, I'm making a trade-off here and I'm going to make it worth it. And if it's not something you're willing to say, if you're not willing to say no to other things in order to pursue that goal, think about changing the goal, right? You don't, like I said, you don't have to start off trying to conquer the world. You can start off small, conquer your world. Relevant. Another one, right? I'm an operations director, right? I'm not a full-time loan officer, although I do have my loan officer license and real estate license, right? Now, I did that because I wanted to understand our industry better, and I put myself through that journey. But my focus is the thriving of this team, of you all on this call, of our company. I'm not going to be a top producer this year. Let's be real. I'm not going to somehow close 60 loans this year, right? And for me to set that goal, it doesn't really align with where I'm at in my life. because my commitments are pretty clear. I'm committed to you guys on the call. I'm committed to making sure that we have the right system in place, right? So you want to make sure your goals are aligned with you in that manner. You know, they should remember, like, you want your goals to push you out your comfort zone, but you don't want them to be so far outside of what you're currently doing that they're just not aligned with where you're at in your life. So remember that too, right? You want to make sure that those goals are relevant. So that's why one of these in the SMART goal setting is make it relevant. It needs to matter to you. And another way of reading this is make it personal. Make it something that you just want to do. It shouldn't feel like a chore all the time. You know, there should be something of like I'm training for this, but you don't want your goal to take you so far out of what you're even able to do that you're just like wishful thinking, right? So you want this goal to answer yes to these questions. Does it seem worthwhile? Remember, I'm saying yes to this, I'm saying no to something else. Is it worth it? Is it the right time? Sometimes we have an amazing goal and it's aligned, but it might not be the right time. That takes wisdom. And does this match my other efforts or needs? I want to make sure that if we're going to have to invest more time and effort, that we're realistic about what that might mean for us. And let's see what I have here. Oh, is it applicable in the current environment? Oh, yes, I'm so glad I put this in here. Studies have shown, guys, that one of the most impactful things when it comes to achieving your goals is your environment. If you don't have the right environment, just think of a plant. Think of a plant. The plant does not have the right soil. If it isn't watered enough, too much sunlight, it will die. You are the plant. If you don't have a plant, I encourage you, go ahead, grab one, see if you can take care of it, try not to kill it. And you will see that it takes work to create the right environment. It's really easy to just like go off into, you know, trying to make the goal happen. But if you're not creating that right environment, you're going to fall into old habits. You know, I'll just give you a side example for this. I remember when I was trying to lose a little bit of weight, and everything I was doing not working. I was so frustrated. I was like, what's happening? What's going on? And I was, reflecting, did a little bit of reading, and that's when I learned that environmental creation, shaping your environment is one of the most impactful things. And my environment was undermining me, because guess what I still had in my fridge and in my pantry? I had all the junk foods I still like to eat. I loved that. I loved, like, when I got stressed out, I would eat something, and I wouldn't think twice about it, right? And so without even being aware of it, I was undermining myself. And more importantly is that even the days that I wasn't necessarily undermining myself and was able to, stay on the course, on the wagon, so to speak, that I was exerting so much willpower to not fall off the wagon. You know what eliminates that as even option is just cleaning out the pantry, cleaning out your fridge, and removing those things as options for yourself, right? Like, don't be your worst enemy there. And so people like to think that like motivation is the key to like achieving your goals. And motivation is nice when you have it, but discipline goes a lot further. And if you don't have to really exert so much willpower to maintain your discipline by controlling your environment, you're able to make sure you're spending time on the things that are really going to help you with achieving your goal. So creating the right environment, I guarantee you that will answer so much of your challenges when it comes to achieving your goals. I mean, in this context, right, it might mean creating a designated workspace that is going to help you achieve your goal. It might be making sure that you have like your accountability statement or why statement posted somewhere. Maybe your goals posted somewhere around you so you can see it every day. We have that here. Every day, actually, I see what our goals are. I never lose sight of it. In fact, our annual goals are in 2 parts of our office, and I see it every day. And that's something that you guys should do too. If you haven't done that already, get those goals, slap them somewhere where you're going to see it every day. Don't lose sight of it. Always look at it. right? And help yourself by creating the right environment. That's that why statement. I'm just gonna, that's so I mentioned that. Remember, in the first training I mentioned that be clear on your why. This is where everything emanates from, right? So if you haven't done so already, I invite you. Why are you a loan originator? Why are you your role? Why are you here? Those sound like almost like so direct that it's like confrontational, but it's really good for you to answer those questions, because guess what? If you can't answer them, who can, right? You got to be the one that answers that. Time bound. Got to set a deadline. And, as entrepreneurs, I'll say that this one's the hardest for a lot of people, right? Because it's very easy to say that you want to do something and then kind of just like, I didn't do it, kind of like let it fade into the background. Like no one's going to know, right? No one's going to know if I didn't close a loan this month. No one's going to know if I didn't do it this week, or if I decide to move that meeting with the realtor to sometime else, no one's going to know. Only you're going to know. But guess what? If you know, that's enough, right? And I like to think of it this way, right? Deadlines are not there to scare you. They're there to keep you moving and on course. Nothing one of the constant things of life is that things are ever changing, right? That sort of contradictory statement. Things are always changing. You can't just stay in limbo forever, right? You got to make stuff happen, and that's where the deadline comes in. So every goal needs a target date, right? Give yourself something to focus on and work towards. I'm gonna get through these slides before I finish, but I have something to help you guys with this. A time-bound goal will usually answer these three questions, or these questions, I should say. When is it gonna happen, right? What can I do 6 months from now? What can I do 6 weeks from now? What can I do today? That's my marathon example. Now, a lot of times, guys, the reason why people don't start is because they think of their goal in a big monolithic block. They think of all the work they're going to have to do. They think of all the things they don't know about. They think too much. And that will really actually lead to something called decision paralysis, where you're just so overwhelmed that you just like throw it to the side and you're like, I can't do it today. I need to find the perfect moment. But I'm going to let you guys in on a secret. Every moment's the perfect moment. I mean, really, like there is no perfect moment served up on a platter for you where you have all the time in the world and the needs of your life don't come calling at your door. You are always going to have to figure out when, if you're waiting for the perfect moment, you're always going to just be waiting. Instead, you got to make that moment, and it can happen today. So what I always ask myself, actually, when I go through this sort of set of examples, is like, do I have 45 minutes that I can just let myself do whatever this thing that I set out for myself? Can I do that? Not 45 minutes. Can I do 15? How about 5? And if you don't have time for 5 minutes, the issue isn't the goal. The issue is the way you're thinking about the goal. You have let busyness invade your mind. And if you are so busy, you don't have time for something for 5 minutes, you've been captured, basically. You haven't allowed yourself to be someone who can be open to new things, open to changing. You got to be real with that and ask myself, why am I having this reaction to something that's not allowing me to spend 5 minutes of my time doing something? And if you do it for 5 minutes, most likely you can do it for 15, and most likely for 45. And 45 minutes is a good box of time to get something done. I always, if I'm going to get something done, I don't put it for an hour, 45 minutes. And if I have extra time to spend on it, I'll tack on another 15 minutes or so. But 45 minutes, you'll find, is like a sweet spot for getting anything done to the next stage of completion, calling realtors, checking your emails, whatever it is. You can do it in 45 minutes. I guarantee you can do a little piece of it in 45 minutes. So remember that. you don't got 45 minutes, give yourself 15. If you don't got 15, give yourself 5. Just do it. You gotta practice that. Gotta get it like, like a muscle that's being worked out. And eventually it won't feel so scary. It'll feel like something that is just normal. So remember that. Take some time. You don't have to accomplish it all in a day. In fact, the best goals almost never are. Okay, so we got through all of the SMART goals, or the SMART acronym. So helpful tips in goal setting. So these are things that I've learned, would like to share with you all. Write your goals down. Don't let them just be little whispers in the brain. Write it down. Think of terms in progression and break your larger goals into smaller pieces. Like, Pablo said, good to work backwards sometimes, right? But also remember, like, a lot of times people come in and they see the company that we are now. They don't see all the things that we had to do to get here. I guarantee you, you told me beginning last year, like we would get to 200 LOs. I'd be like, what? No way, really? Or we would, sorry, I should say we would hire an additional 200 LOs. I wouldn't believe you. But that's because of all the things we did before that and all the little goals that we achieved before that. This year, right, we're trying to get to 600 loan officers. That's kind of crazy, right? But that's because we're breaking our goals up into smaller pieces. Anything can be broken up into a smaller piece. Do it for yourself. Break your goals up into smaller pieces. Stay flexible in your mind, right? Just full transparency, right? The personality I have, I like plans. I like it when everything goes according to plan. And when things don't, I'm like, a little frustrated. That's the rigidity that comes with trying to accomplish something. But you got to stay flexible. And instead of, getting upset when things don't work out, you have to take that as something to be learned from. You got to be curious about it. Be like, okay, it didn't work. Why didn't it work? Why didn't I get the outcome that I expected? You got to use those moments for reflection and be flexible. Your goal, if it's worth achieving, is going to challenge you. It's going to challenge you to be a different person. So you got to stay flexible in the way you approach it, because you will change as a person. And that's a good thing. That's a good goal, right? But don't take your failures as signals of, throwing in the towel. Those are invitations to get deeper and figure it out. This one I like. Each time you reach your milestone, treat yourself. It's very easy in our industry to let everything just like, to not give yourself some self-love, self-care, pat on the back. I'm bad at it myself sometimes when it comes to my own personal goals and accomplishments. But you really got to be there, like, to celebrate your milestones. It's going to make everything feel worthwhile, and if you have that thing that you've been wanting to get, purchase, whatever it is, tie it to your goal. Hey, if I do this, then I'm going to do this. Give yourself something to look forward to. Tell people around you what your goal is. For a variety of reasons. One is accountability. Another, weirdly enough, when you start telling people what you're trying to achieve, you start to find support in like the least likely of places. We're all a community here. We all have something that we want to do and achieve, and there's nothing more human than sharing some of that and being like, hey, I want to grow. I want to try this out. I've never done it before. Do you have any ideas? And before you know it, people will be lining up to provide you their notes of how they did it or how they didn't do it, and be there to support you. And you'll be able to create that community for yourself, that support network that you need to make it happen. So speak it out. Don't let it be something that just fades into the background, because if that happens, you're actually much less likely to achieve that goal. And when you do succeed, not many people are going to be there celebrating with you because you didn't tell anyone. Share the goal. Share it with me. I want to hear what the goal is. This is a good one. This goes back to measurable. Set dates to review your progress and reflect. 30, 60, 90 days. Keep it like that. Just do it once a month at least. If you can do it even, more frequently, great. Make sure you're setting some point to check in. This one, be militantly optimistic. I love, because I sometimes am quite the opposite. I can be a little too cynical and be like, oh, it's not working. But I actually took this for when I went traveling. I did a solo backpacking trip in Europe when I went out of college, or when I graduated college. And I was reading about like this traveler's like diaries or whatever. And they were saying how the best thing you can do for yourself when you're engaging in something new that you never experienced or seen before is to just be militantly optimistic. Don't let doubt or fear set in. Be there as your own like person with a big #1 foam finger that's just like cheering for yourself. Be that person for yourself. Make something happen, right? Don't let the idea of it may not succeed, or I may not be able to do it. Don't let that invade your thinking. Be your own best supporter. And all, like with everything I've described to you today, you will eventually reach your goal. And show up for yourself. I like this one. Show up for yourself every damn day. There's always a way to show up. Always a way to show up. There will be days, guys, when you feel like you aren't making any progress. I know I've had some times in my life where I'm like, what's going on? Why aren't I getting there yet? I thought I would have achieved it by now. But I would like you to remember that all things take time. This is actually something that I got from James Clear. If you've read James Clear, power to you. That valley of disappointment is a real thing. Okay, you will, as you're adjusting to a new way of doing things, you will hit a point when you're like, I'm doing all this work and nothing seems to be working out. I'm not achieving what I wanted to achieve. I'm gonna quit. And that's when you need to really just go back to that why and be like, no, this is why I'm doing it, and just keep at it. I can guarantee you, if you keep at it, something will happen. And if you don't, then you'll never know. So just know that it takes time to make stuff like your goal a real thing. Okay. So said a lot to you guys today. I hope that you got some value out of what I shared with you. I know that goal setting can seem somewhat of a just like basic thing, but it's a foundational part of success. And it's not just because it's setting a goal, it's because it's developing a process for being successful. What is your process for being successful? I'm not going to sit here and say my process is the best process. I don't think anyone would really do that. But what I will tell you is that you got to think deeply about what you're willing to do and what you're not. And be realistic about that. If you're not willing to do something, you should know that now, as opposed to wasting potentially 6 months to a year to more of your life. You got to put in work. This is part of that. Good way to chart your course. So I'm going to give you guys an assignment. It's completely optional, by the way. I'm not going to, send you a reminder email. Those who want to, make something happen for themselves this year and are serious, I think I'll see their emails. And those who don't, I'm ready when you are, is what I'll say. So review what I talked about with you today. Review your notes if you have any. I'm going to share the slides with you, of course. And just reflect, give yourself some time, reflect on what you want to do. It can be personal, it can be professional. Ideally, you have some professional, mortgage related goals you want to accomplish, but personal ones are good too. Sometimes they're almost inseparable. Right, at least 3 of them, 3 SMART goals, okay, using the criteria that I provided for you. I have an example here for you. Close at least 3 loans within the next 6 months. So that's very specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And if you go back in your notes, you'll see how. Now, you can get as deep as you want. you can, I'm always happy to see like more complexity and like depth. It shows that you're like thinking about stuff, but keep it simple for yourself too. Don't make it so, complex that it's just hard to understand. And just send it to me an email. I think everyone has my email, serafinr@equitysmartloans.com. You can let me know if you have any questions. If you go ahead and send it to me, I'll go ahead and provide you any sort of feedback or, answer any questions you may have. I want to use this as a basis for the next session that we do. So think of me as your trainer / facilitator, right? Sometimes it's hard to make time for this on your own. So I'm giving you the tools, the training that you need to do this. You're going to give me what you work on. That's going to be fuel for the next session that we do. Okay. All right. I think that is everything. So what I wanted to do, guys, actually, is I wanted you all to help me out, actually, by stop this share. I wanted you all to help me out by filling out this form for me. It's a feedback form for this session today. I always like to hear from you all and see how we can make our trainings better. So I'm going to drop something in the chat for everyone. And if you guys wouldn't mind taking a few minutes while we're on the call right now to fill it out, let me know just your thoughts, how we can do this better. Would really appreciate it. Like I said, I'm envisioning this as a series that will be, continued. So if you have, feedback for me as to like what you'd like to see in the next one, or ideas, or just want to say we did a good job, I'd appreciate that. Okay.
All right, thank you so much, Serafin. That was pretty awesome. And, just having the whole conversation about goal setting is huge, because a lot of people don't realize how important that is, or we forget, we all know that we have to have goals and a direction. And one of the things that's worked for me in my career is just practice, just get in the habit of practicing, just like anything else. I'll give you an example, right? So the new house that I moved in, there's a basketball hoop, right? And my son's 11 years old. We bought a basketball, and about 2 months ago, we started shooting hoops, right? We go out there, and I'm not a basketball player. There's a basketball hoop, but let's shoot some hoops. Let's get some exercise, right? So me and my son are playing horse, and fast forward 2 months later, we go out there because we're enjoying shooting hoops. We're like making, we went out there and we started making almost every basket compared to the first day where every shot we were missing. And it was a great opportunity to show my son, like say, hey, look, we actually were, believe it or not, the last 2 months that we've come out and practiced for 15, 30 minutes, we were actually practicing and we've gotten better. You're making, from, just making up numbers, you went from making 20% of your shots to like 60 to 70% of your shots, right? And it happened over time. I was even amazed at me making the shots I was making. And it just reminded me of how consistency and practicing new skills really goes a long ways. And unfortunately, this is not like basketball where you can physically immediately see the results as you're doing it. And this is something that you're practicing on your own in your own time. And a lot of times we're not even used to doing things by ourselves, like taking 20, 15, 30 minutes just to silently work on our own stuff that we need to get up to, that we need to accomplish for ourselves. And even that, breaking that up into goals, like saying, okay, I'm having struggle just sitting down and concentrating, right? Start creating 20 minutes of your time, 30 minutes, whatever it is, and sit down and just concentrate on something. And then from there, start working on your goals and just get in the habit of setting that time apart. That's always been huge for me, is just practice, because practice makes perfect. But that's how practice looks like in our field. It's just consistently doing it over and over again and getting used to putting the phone away, concentrating and on the things that you need to be doing. And that in itself can be a challenge, right? Because we're easily distracted and we easily get bored and we easily lose our attention. But by making that time, me personally, one of the things that I enjoy, and I think Serafin enjoys now too, is I come into the office sometimes at 7:30, 8 o'clock, right before anyone's in the office. I get so much done during that time. I have peace and quiet. No one's interrupting me. No one's calling me. No one's reaching out to me. And I'm sure you guys have experienced that before, right? When you show up early, no one's around and you're just zipping through everything. And because you have that concentration and that focus. So make sure you make time for that and make this goal setting a huge part of what you're doing, because without this goal setting, then you don't have any measurable way of knowing what you're doing and what you're accomplishing and how you're getting better, right? And initially, what I've noticed is when I was breaking down my goals early in my career and trying to get one loan a month, one loan a week, and then one loan a day, and maybe I don't get the one loan a day. Maybe I get 2, 3 loans in one day, and then the next day I get zero, and the next day I get zero. But that one day I got 2 or 3 makes up for that 2 or 3 days that I'm off. So I'm still kind of accomplishing my goal. But the more you're in it, the more you're going to exceed the goals that you're trying to accomplish, because the habits and the practice that you're creating daily is what's going to get you those extra deals that you aren't even thinking about getting, because you're already in the game, you're already in play. And that's the most important part, keeping yourself in practice and play. Thank you so much, Serafin, for sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us. I think, did you want to open it up for some Q&A?
Yeah,
If anyone
wants
has
to,
any questions about goal setting, any type of issues they have with it, or if you want to share some of your successes for those people that have had huge successes with setting their own goals and how they were able to accomplish them, we'd like to hear everything. And remember, this is not a place to be shy.
yeah, I'm waiting for someone to say something. Yeah, Rose, go for it.
It's Rita. I just wanted to thank you for the training today. Some of it was, of course, basic, but very, very important. So thank you so much. I'm looking forward to doing this, not only with myself, but with my team. I don't see my Coachella team on here, so I don't know if they got the memo. I'm not sure if they got it or not, but this is fantastic. So we will be doing this together as a team. Awesome. And be sending emails.
Yeah,
thank you.
That'd be great. Yeah, definitely. And we have it recorded as well, Rita. So we'll go ahead and share it with everyone. And yeah, we'll make sure
that would be great.
Yeah.
That'd be fantastic. Thank you.
Awesome. Rose, I see your hands up. Did you want to say anything?
Yeah, I did.
Okay.
So I just wanted to say, like, one of my biggest takeaways, all of it was good, but for me personally, my biggest takeaway is environment. For me, like, my desk has to be clear. Everything has to be in order for me to like function properly. Right. And I can also like run into a Starbucks and like do what I need to do. But even then I'm so laser focused, but it's really important to have a space that suits your optimum performance. Right. And for me, that's just really important. I know that about myself. And I just wanted to mention it because it really resonated today. I've been out of town for a week. So, things are not as, things are a little chaotic, not like normal, but I just wanted to say that it might be helpful for other people to really set up a place where they are optimally, productive.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a great, I'm glad that you took that away, because it's one of the things that people you just don't think of it so much, right? Because sometimes you take things for granted and you're like, this is just how I work. But yeah, I'm the same way, Rose. And actually, I remember I had an old, like, a manager back in the day, and they always told me, like, if you can't think of new ideas, if you can't get your work done, clean your desk, and you'll be better off for it. And so, like, to this day, if I'm like kind of, thinking about something, or I just can't seem to get to the next thing I need to do, or somehow just like a little stuck, I just clean my desk, I clean my office, right? And honestly, usually that gets things situated in a way for me where, okay, I can move on to the next thing. So I'm glad you took that away, Rose. Thank you.
Hey, Serafin.
Hey, Julian.
Hello. The question I have is maybe for next training, if you can bring like some more examples of goals that you would expect loan officers to try to hit or create for themselves, I think that would be very helpful. because I know end of December, you and I shared with you privately. I was like, oh, I think I shared it publicly with everybody on a Zoom channel. I was like, oh, I want to close 4 loans in 2024. And that was it. Like that was my goal, right? Measurable 4, deadline 2024. Almost there.
Got it.
So, but I think I just would love to learn more, like from a loan officer perspective of what are some like top 3 goals we should be setting for ourselves besides just like I want to close X number of goals in this timeline.
Understood. No, I think that's a great idea. And one kind of like, just so you see where my mind's at, what I was thinking is that after I get all the kind of like the feedback of where everyone's minds are at, I'll kind of create like a somewhat of like a goal bank, right? Where like there's all these different types of goals that like LOs can do. And, you know, because there's what they say, you can skin a cat in like 1,000 different ways, right? I think that's what they say. But there's a bunch of different ways, right, to achieve the goal. So I kind of want to like just put all the different things that people are working on. And then I want to spend the next session actually workshopping it. So that way we can create like an action plan, right? And so I'm right there with you. I think that would be like a good next step for you all. And yeah, we're gonna make that happen. We're gonna make 4 look like what? Only 4? I did 10, right? So that's what I want to help you guys with.
I wanted to share something with you guys. One about goal setting. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, yes.
Okay. One of the things that I do is like almost every week when I start the week, I have a little like a notebook, you know, simple notebook that I just write down like 5 things that I have to get done on major things on that week. You know, and I know there's a lot of other stuff that comes in, but I write those down and put it on the paper. And then during that whole week, I try to focus on that, those like goals. Just putting on the paper, I kind of helped me, like, you know, I can see it on my desk all the time, and and it kind of, if I get distracted, it brings me back to it, you know.
That's a good point. And I think one of the habits that would be very useful, and what it seems like you've already done, Farzad, is know what you want to accomplish that week. You know, and this is where the goal setting comes, like, is really important, because if you do it backwards and you're just like, what do I want to accomplish this week? It's not really tied to anything, you know, so then you're just going to be doing stuff without making it productive. This is where the goal setting comes into place, because now you're making sure that your actions are aligned with the larger goal in mind, right? A lot of us kind of like just vaguely know, yeah, I should be getting more loans, but you want to, you know, getting clear helps you get clearer on how you should be spending your months, weeks, and days, right? And one of the things that I love to do is on the Sunday, before the week starts, I take 15 minutes to plan what needs to happen this week. Just like I just write down 5 things that need to happen. A, B, C, D, E, F, right? And I keep that there somewhere, right? And that planning saves you so much time. You know, because now you're not thinking day to day what I need to do. You already know what you need to do by having made it visible. And that's a big part of it, right? Is that sometimes people just don't take the time. They think like, oh, planning, that's just, I'm just going to do it. Just going to do it. I don't need to worry about it. But you actually waste more time. Funnily enough, you waste more time by not planning. You know, you think it would be intuitive, but a lot of us just like totally short circuit our like decision-making like capacity. And instead we go straight to action before we plan. If you plan, your effort is going to be conserved, right? One of the things I always look about is like, we call it conservation of greatness, right? What are you doing to conserve your energy and keep momentum moving the right direction? Because if you're like putting 100% effort, but only 50% is actually useful, the other 50% is just waste. But you still feel it as like a burden or like a drain on your energy. You align that as best you can, and you're gonna get results much more quickly. So I think that's a great bit of advice for us. Okay, well, we're at 2, so I think we're good here, but I wanted to ask again, if you guys haven't already, please fill out that feedback form. I will send it again in a follow-up email once we get the recording you know, downloaded, and we'll be sharing the slides with you all. I really do hope that everyone that was here today makes some time to email me what their goals are for this year. I would love to see where you guys are heads are at, and just continue this journey that we're on together. So thank you all for tuning in and being a part of it. Pablo, is there anything you want to leave us off on?
No, thank you so much again for sharing and wanting to make an impact on everyone. I think that takes a lot of huge commitment. And, one of the things I think about when I'm trying to teach or help someone is, how can I be the best version of myself to be able to share and be as impactful as I can? That itself is a huge challenge, right? Trying to be a very impactful person and trying to deliver a message, advice, or whatever it is that we're offering in a way that it touches and moves you and it puts you into action. I mean, that's ultimately our goal by doing this. I'm always trying to improve myself in this arena, because I feel that it's very important for you guys to believe in what we're telling you, so that you can convince yourself and say, hey, if they did it, I can do it. And, they're sharing their knowledge and information with us, because this must be important. And this is an important part of their recipe to success. So keep that in mind. We want to be as impactful and help you guys as much as possible. And hopefully the guests that I bring on board too share their knowledge. And one of the things that you're going to pick up on quickly is that everyone that's successful comes from all walks of lives. I've always had images and imaginations of successful people carrying themselves a certain way, but just like the rest of us, they all come in different colors, shapes, and sizes and everything. And rather than look at the person, look at the message, listen to the message, try to pay attention to what they're bringing to the table, and separate anything else from that. So thank you guys. I love that you guys participate. We're all trying to grow together, and we'll see you guys again next week. We'll do it again on Monday. We'll shoot you guys out in the next couple of days what the next topic for next week will be. Okay. Enjoy the rest of your week. Make it productive, and we'll see you soon.